welcome back to the channel. We're playing 20 questions with.
Tori Woods Valentine from Stationery Universe.
All right, let's get into the questions. When I say
Okay.
fountain pen, what pen do you think of?
Pilot 823.
All right, how did you get into pens?
Oh, great question. So I've always loved pens. Like when I was a kid, and we had the Scholastic Book Fair. In addition to my books, I was always getting one of the little diaries with a little lock and the pens, or like the colored pencils that had the little itsy bitsy ones inside of the clear barrel, and you could push them forward. And on vacations, I always wanted to get the pen that had Niagara Falls, the Maid of the Mist, that can go this way or that way as you tilted it. So I've always loved pens in general. And surprisingly didn't get into fountain pens until later in life. During the start of the pandemic, I was influenced by AOC, who posted on her Insta that she used fountain pens from an eco standpoint. And I thought, well, that makes sense. I would like to also produce less plastic waste. So got started there and initially thought, oh, I'll only ever use cartridges. I feel like bottles of ink seems like so much of a hassle. I don't want to faff around with it. And then as many people do, you try one and fall down the rabbit hole. And now I have, the drawers of ink and all of the pens. So in an effort to reduce my consumers, it perhaps is increased, but at least they last longer, right? And then you can reuse the bottles.
What was your first pen?
It was the same pen that AOC used, which was a Kaweco Sport. I got the blueberry and a medium nib, and that was my very first pen, which I will keep forever and ever.
All right, what's your current daily driver?
Great question. I usually have anywhere from like 20 to 30 pens on my desk, and I consider all of them my daily drivers.
Person after my own heart.
Like my desk is a disaster. I think best with a clear desk, but I am perpetually unable to attain it. But I will say there are a couple constants amidst the sea of pens that I have inked at any one time, and that's probably got to be my Mont Blanc Glacier Legrand. I love everything about this pen. It's a medium nib, and Kirk Spear from Pen Realm tuned it, and I just love everything about it. I love the balance. I love how reliable the nib is. I don't have to think about using the pen. It just effortlessly flows. So I usually have a variety of maker pens, as well as some from the bigger orgs, but I pretty much always have my Glacier in the daily driver rotation.
All right, what's your favorite ink?
Oh man, that's like asking to pick a favorite kid. You're allowed to have one, but you're not allowed to say it, right? I'm gonna give you a two-pronged answer there.
Okay.
So I think the ride or die ink has got to be Iroshizuku Pilot. If a pen isn't working or if a pen's giving you any trouble, you put some Iroshizuku ink in it, and if it's still not working, then you've got a problem that needs addressing.
Yeah.
I feel like the ink, it behaves well on every paper I've tried it with, every pen. It's reliable, it's beautiful, it's saturated, and probably Sui Gyoko, which I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I do not speak Japanese. It's probably my favorite color. I love teals. So the Roshizuku is the ride or die desert island ink. But I also have a huge penchant for Ackerman ink. I love the way it shades. I love how saturated it is. I love the bottles. I've got one of the Dutch Masters here, which I think my background is blurring. Sorry. You tilt it. It's got the little marble guy in there to give you a little inkwell to keep from dumping all over yourself. It's just beautiful. It's so saturated and so beautiful. So I think I'll go for a two-pronged there if you'll let that slide.
All right. What's your favorite brand of pen?
Oh man, that's even harder. Gosh, I'm not trying to be a Pilot commercial, but it might have to be Pilot. I feel like there's something for everyone in the Pilot lineup, from a beginner to the most seasoned collector. There's something for everyone. There's a nib for everyone. They always are going to write well out of the box. And probably my favorite pen of all time, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but it is the Pilot 823 from Bungo Box. This pen is probably the pen that hooked me the most. Like my Kaweco was the first, and then I started getting more pens from there. I wanted this one so badly. I set alarms for the middle of the night for when it went on sale. Like I tried everything and I did not get this pen and I was bereft. Because at the time I was like, okay, Neil Gaiman writes with an 823. These are my signature colors. This pen is meant to be my pen. This is destined to be my pen. This is the pen that will finally solve all of my writing related issues. But it was not to be. And the market afterwards
Yeah.
for the limited edition was like, um, so I put on Reddit, on the fountain pen Reddit, I wrote some doggerel verse, like a very bad poem, about how much I wanted to own this pen. It was not a good poem, and I made probably my first pen friend from that poem, who responded and was moved by my poem and actually liked it and was willing to sell me her pen it was a good price. It was reasonable, right? It wasn't wasn't a gouging situation. So we still call it our pen. We're still friends. And I wrote her a thank you poem with the pen. And one day when I finally do write my book, there's going to be a character named after her. So, so I think Pilot's probably gotta be the favorite brand.
Pilot comes up a shocking amount in this series as a favorite brand.
Yeah, those are. It's. I mean, they're just so darn good, and they're
Yeah.
so. They're so weight in the hand is a huge one. Like to me, a pen has to do more than look pretty. It has
Yeah.
to. Ideally, it should look good. If it looks ugly, you're just not going to want to use it. That's just why bother at that point. So it needs to look good, but it's got to feel good, and it's got to write well. If it doesn't, have that beautiful nib feel, whether you're a stainless or a gold nib aficionado, it's got to write well. Otherwise, it's not gonna. You know, I don't believe that pen. I have respect for however anyone wants to organize their pen collection. I personally feel like you should write with your pens. They're part of their beauty is their utility, is that it is something that you can use every day, but take a moment and intentionally select that thing that you're going to use for your everyday moment. So I think pens should be written with. If you have a pen that you love but you hate the way it writes, maybe it's better to put it back out into the world and find someone else who might love it, or go to a nibmeister and see if they can't help you make it the way you love it. I've had that happen with pens too.
Yeah. Getting things tuned so that they work for you, or getting a new grind on something is such an underrated thing, especially if you're just getting into pens.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I thought I hated Bach nibs. I thought I just didn't like them. I had a couple Bachs and they were such clunkers, and I was like, ugh. And then I come to find out that the thing with Bachs is they just need to be tuned. Like a Yovo will come out of the box, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be
Yeah.
fine. It can always be improved, right? Everything can always be improved, but Yovos are more reliable, though, in terms of not needing tuning. But a well-tuned Bach is a thing of beauty. I love a Bach nib now, but they've got to be tuned. And so, had I not known that, I would have missed out on an awful lot of nibs that I really like now.
Yep. Vintage or modern?
Modern. Vintage scares me. I know it shouldn't, but I feel like I'm gonna break something. Um, but I'm just waiting. I'm sure, just like there was the modern pen that caught me, I'm sure at some point there will be the vintage pen that grabs me too. I love the stories behind them, and I love thinking about who owned them. But yeah, at this point, I'm just scared I'll break something.
I'm sure you're gonna find something vintage at DC.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sure
might
I'm
be
gonna
right.
see a picture of a vintage thing from you from DC.
Okay, challenge accepted. I will definitely look.
Do you swatch all your inks?
I try to. I have a binder of ink. I kind of took my inspiration from like Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering cards or baseball. There we go. We'll go with baseball cards. So I've got those kind of plastic sheets, and then in there, I found that my color rings, which I will still do, I'll pull them out and put them into rings when I'm looking at a specific color. But I like having them in my binder. And I do also use fountain pen companion. I love that for ink tracking.
All right. Uh, you've already answered this question. Other than the Mont Blanc, are there any pens that you daily drive the same pen and ink combination?
Yes, I feel like when you find the right ink for the pen, it's like this magical moment, and sometimes it's hard for me to break away from wanting to put that ink in it all the time. Lately, one of my daily drivers has been a pen that I actually collaborated on with. Here she is.
I've seen it all over Instagram.
You see, thank you. Yeah, this was a pleasure to collaborate on. I worked with Jen from Stormwind Blanks and Rich from River City Pens, and then Kirk on a finial and nib. This is the Stationery Universe Waves of Neptune pen, and it was inspired by the colors of the planet Neptune. And Jen, I don't know how she manages to make space in a pen, and but she does. She makes stars. Like there's literally like a starry sky right there. I don't know how she does it. She has magic. So I swatched, oh, I don't know, 10 inks maybe in this guy, trying to find the right one for it. I'm a huge turquoise, teal, aqua fan. So I have a bazillion of those inks to choose from. And ultimately, what ended up being the winner for this pen was Birmingham Inks Glassmith. That is just mwah, beautiful with it. Close second being Laban's Poseidon. So this one has been in daily driver rotation for several weeks now as well. And then I do always have the 823 inked up right now. And I usually put the Israel Zeblau by
Okay.
Ackerman in it. Again, I do not speak Dutch, so sorry about that pronunciation. But yeah, I tend to keep those always inked on the desk.
Right. Do you keep your writing samples in a way you can flip through them so you know how all your nibs write, or do you just like know what every nib is in every pen?
Oh, that's a great question. So that I try to, but I fail miserably. I have a I have a notebook that I write them all in, but then I end up switching nibs around between different pens, especially for my maker pens. I'll swap nibs with different grinds, and them are different designs. So yeah, I should have a nice organized system, but instead it is chaos and anarchy in terms of my nib tracking. If anyone has any solutions of how to do better, I am all ears.
I think Julia just takes all of her nibs out of all of her pens. Like
Yeah,
her pens are all kept nibless, and she just keeps all her nibs sorted by size and grind in a box, and then she just grabs what she wants when she needs something.
that's really smart.
Yeah.
Gotta think about that because especially grinds, right? After you have them, it's tough to remember what and when and who. And yeah, that's a really good idea.
She shows it off in her 20 questions.
Perfect. I'll check that out.
What's a pen you wish you could see in person?
The Scribo feel Rivedere le Stelle, the that they put out during the pandemic, the night full of stars. I missed out on that one and regret it every day, and would love to see it in person.
What's your current grail?
That's one of them. That's one of
Okay.
them for sure. And also, a Grail is a Nikaya Ama Iru. I would love to have that color in my collection, and they're just so beautiful. When you hold an Acacia in your hand, it warms to your hand, and it feels like an extension of your body and your brain. So that's definitely a Grail for me.
What's a pen you would recommend to a beginner?
Mm, great question. I know others have said this too, and I think I have to agree. The Pilot Metropolitan is a great way to start. It's not intimidating. It looks familiar. It has a reassuring weight. It's very user friendly. But also, I am a big fan of the Pilot Kakuno. I think part of the fun of a fountain pen is being able to see what's going on. So the Kakuno is a great choice. Pilot Preppy you can't go wrong with. And also the Kaweco Sports, they're kind of like a snackable pen, right?
Yeah.
They're cute, they're fun. So I think any of those would be reasonable beginner pens.
Yeah, I really like the Kakuno with the Con 70. I'm not a huge fan of the Con 40,
Hmm.
but I do really like the Con 70. And I
I
wish it
agree.
fit in more pens. I'm
Yeah.
annoyed it doesn't fit in a Prera.
Yes. Take note, Pilot, if you're listening. I also love in a clear Kakuno putting one of the painted converters. We have Con 70 painted by Amanda Vacheray of Quilly Pig, and that's the way to show off her work. She has such tiny, detailed painting. Put one of those in a Kakuno, and it's a really affordable entry level pen, but it'll write great and it looks beautiful.
No, those painted converters of Chicago were just stunning. And it
She does
also
great
made me
work.
wish that I actually owned a demonstrator because at the time I did not. Um, so I didn't have anything that I could actually put one in, or you could actually see it.
No.
What ink would you recommend to a beginner?
Hmm. So for behavior, the Iroshizuku, but maybe a lower price point, because I feel like at first it can be distressing to a beginner to to think about ink cost. So probably Diamine, that's also very well behaved and has a lower point of entry. Beyond that, possibly the Urban. They have those little bottles
Oh
that
yeah.
are super cute and affordable, and feel special. So yeah, we'll go with those. The little mini Urban bottles.
Question 15.
Okay.
What advice do you have for somebody wanting to try out fountain pens who might be a bit intimidated by them?
Great question. Don't be scared. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's pens and papers. I think there's a tendency to feel intimidated by something that you don't understand. So I think helping the way to help that out would be, watch some YouTube videos, right? Just learn some basics about a pen and try not to take it so seriously because you're not starting off by writing the Declaration of Independence or some other formative document, Magna Carta, take your pick. So there's nothing to be afraid of. It's supposed to be fun, right? And other than that, I would say that to hop on to some communities on Instagram or on Reddit, finding pen friends is a big way to sort of feel less intimidated and learn things and can help you learn where some folks are in your area. I think trying inks and pens is the best way to discover what you like. And then, of course, if you feel comfortable and are near a city where there is a pen show, I think that's the ultimate way to get to know pens. A lot of them have ink testing stations, and even those that don't, people will bring their inks, bring their pens. There's lots of things you can swatch, like, other people's pens and inks you can try. I think getting your hands on them is probably the best way to learn and experiment and see what you like.
Yeah. What filling mechanism do you think is most interesting, regardless of if you like to use it or not?
Definitely the vac. I love watching videos of vac. I have yet to perfect the vac, but how nice that there's still things that we can perfect, right? How boring would life be if we knew everything? So I love watching videos of it. It's mesmerizing.
Atlas makes really good back.
Atlas makes great vac. I mean, they're like borderline adult content, right? It's so it's so satisfying. I don't know how they do it so
Yeah, I need to talk to their media team when I'm there in a couple days.
yeah, right. See if they can teach you, and then you can teach me.
Yeah, first I need to acquire a vac pen. So
Great. Okay, step one. All right, we can do that.
s-
What's going to be your first vac pen?
oh, I'm really thinking about there's a Navaler Original Plus that Atlas still has in stock that's sparkly.
Yeah.
It's it's like it was the I think it was like the test one before the gold spot one that was totally sparkly, where just like the barrel is clear, but
Mm,
the end and the grip and the cap are sparkly, and they've got it in both black and white. I'm leaning towards the black one
uh-huh.
because I have a lot of light colored pens and I don't have any black pens in my collection.
Mhm.
We will see if it's still in stock in, yes, 10 days
Yeah.
when I place my Atlas order.
And you could ink it with Color versus Chicago Black, which is a black that has like a little shimmer to it.
Yeah, there are so many fun things I could ink it with,
Right.
especially because I'm looking at it in a double broad.
Yeah. Oh, you got to get the double broad of it, right? You got to.
Double broad's what they still have in stock, and double broad is what I want.
Meant to be.
But the
Meant to be.
question is, what color do I want, and is it still going to be in stock in 10 days?
Well, if it is, then you know that it is truly meant to be.
Yeah, it's now been sitting in my Atlas cart since like the first week of June. We'll see if
Just
I come
waiting for
home
you.
with it. What nib size do you prefer to write with?
I am also a broad girl. I'm a broad all the live long day. I do love a double broad as well.
Yep.
I also really like Sailor's Zoom nibs.
Okay.
I like them out of the box, and I also like them ground. But yeah, the bigger the better for a nib, especially because I do love custom grinds, and I want to give them as much room as possible to work with. Probably my favorite grind of all time Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna go with Kirk's Tonto, which is his take on the Naginata, and get that on a double broad. Um, it is a thing of beauty. It's when you're writing, when you have just the right pen with just the right grind, just the right ink, just the right paper, and you make that line, and it's magic. It's the only word for it.
You and I need to talk more about nib grinds. Really, I just need to do an episode with people where all we do is discuss nib grinds because one,
Yes.
not enough is known about them, and two,
Mhm.
I don't know nearly enough to host an episode about them. But I am intrigued by all of them. So,
We can do it. We can do a nib grind duo.
um, is there a style of nib you love or find interesting but would never actually use?
Hmm. So architects are a quirky one. I love some architects, and some architects feel like you're wearing someone else's shoes. Like they just don't work
Yeah,
for my angle or my hand. So some architects, I love the concept of all architects, and I believe there's an architect for everybody, but not all of them would be one that I would use. I also I love the concept of like the posting nib and needle points and really teeny tiny ones. I think they're very cool, and I'm glad they exist for people who love them. I do not have the patience to write that small, and I really don't enjoy any like I'll take a little feedback, but I don't like anything that approaches a scratchy sensation. I really want that smooth sort of vibe. So yeah, I don't really. I appreciate and I'm glad that they exist, but don't personally use any needle points.
fair enough. Do you always use the same paper? If so, what paper? If not, what paper's your favorite?
Great question. I use all different types of paper. I find this is perhaps weird, but I feel like different pens and different inks do better on different papers. So I don't have one paper, like I do not have one true paper to rule them all. I tend to think of Clairefontaine Triomphe as kind of the default paper. That's what I do my swatches on. I cut them on my little paper cutter. And I just sort of use that as my baseline, but that is not the best paper for all combinations. I also really like Cosmo Air Light. I really like, oh boy, Subame. I think I'm probably saying it wrong. I like that paper a lot. Of course, everyone enjoys Tomoe River, the old school Tomoe River. But yeah, I have a little swatching notebook that I made with a ring binder that has about 7 or 8 different types of paper in it. Because when I'm testing inks and pens, I like trying it on different papers to see which paper that combination likes the best. So I guess I'm just all over the shop with my papers.
Fair. I am too. I
Yeah.
think the only constant is that I swatch on cola rings and that I use MD paper because I use a traveler's notebook.
Yes. Love that.
What is your least favorite ink or ink color family?
I know I'm gonna disappoint some people when I say that just the oranges and yellows. Again, I'm glad they exist. I'm glad they exist. I know some people, some good friends of mine who, need all of the orange inks and all of the orange pens in the world, and I respect that. I'm glad they're there for them. I have a couple, and that suits my needs. If I'm going to use an orange or a yellow, it's either going to be as a little accent, or I recently picked up Amarillo Stationery. Eric designed these coloring books on fountain pen friendly
Yep.
paper that fit in your traveler's journal or traveler's notebook, and I am having a blast with those. I'm having so much fun. So I did ink something up with orange, so it's fun for that. But I also don't. Sorry, could you hear that lightning? There we go. That's my oh look turtles moment. They're ink colors that are super duper light that you can't read. I don't. I think they're fun for drawing, but not so much for writing. I think things should be legible.
Yep. I think those coloring books are the only times I wished I had a full size traveler's notebook because he
It's
hasn't done them as passport sizes yet.
I don't think he has, but Eric, if you're listening, we need them in the passport
Yes,
size.
I've already DM'd him about the possibility of passport sizes because I would love them as a passport size because I don't want a bigger traveler's notebook.
Yeah,
Really like the passport ones, but
yeah.
I
I'm
do.
with you. I'm a plotter person. I really
Okay.
like plotters. I like the smaller size as well. And I got a traveler's notebook cover specifically for the coloring book because I liked it so much.
That is honestly something I would do. I had put out a call in there's a Canadian fountain pen group, and I went, does anyone have an extra traveler's cover they're not using? Because like I wasn't going to buy one new,
Right.
but if somebody had one they no longer wanted, I would give it a home.
It's well worth it. I picked it up at the St. Louis Pen Show,
Okay.
and I ended up using one of the pages, on the many pen shows after hours. Folks will gather around tables and pass around their pens and inks to share. So instead of, normally what I'll do is I write down snippets of conversations, so I get the most nonsensical pages that make me laugh. But this time, instead, I colored in parts of the coloring book with all the different pens. So I have this really cool, swatch page from different people's pens. So that was another fun way to do it.
Yeah, I think I just have like 2 pages that are just full of like hi and hello with everyone's different pen nibs.
Yep.
Except for the page where I tested out a Pilot music nib that had just been tuned by Annabelle, in which case I wrote that it was a Pilot music nib,
Yes.
so that I actually knew what I was writing with, because it just looks so weird that I needed to know what it was.
That's an interesting question. Do you normally, when you're testing out pens, do you write like phrases or what you're writing with, or do you just write your name? What do you
It
normally write with?
it depends on the pen. So, uh, Kari Bullet Journal was here a couple weeks ago. We sat on the back deck. She probably pulled out close to 100 pens, which
Wow,
was so much fun.
that sounds like a
Um,
blast.
it was an absolute blast. She also brought like 27 ink samples, and I got so distracted so fast. It's like she and mom were going, "Oh, look, pens," and I was going, "Ooh, look, ink." Uh, yeah, Blackbird
Yeah.
with inks.
Mhm.
So with those pens, I did write what nibs they were and what pens they were, purely because some of them were pens that I had been looking at online, and I wanted to know which sizes I preferred.
Yeah.
So Benu, I learned that I'm very much a broad girl,
Mm,
which I thought I probably was. I didn't think I was going to like a Benu fine or a Benu medium.
mhm,
And that was the case. Um, but in most cases, I either just like scribble with the nib and then go back through and label it,
mhm.
or I just write hi. Like I don't have the energy to do more with a pen than that most of the time. And it's just like, here's me testing a pen. And if I like it, I might write with it more. But if I don't like it, like that's two letters are enough for me to know if I'm gonna like a pen or
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. I think I usually write the name of the person and that it's their pen. So, this is so and so's pen with a so and so nib, and then yeah, if I don't like it, that's enough. I smile politely and hand it back. If I do like it, then I hang on to it for a minute, and that's when I start just writing either snippets of like song lyrics that float through my head or random words of people's random conversations. So it looks very frenetic on the page, but it's fun.
well, thanks for playing 20 questions.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.